Jonathan Mercer sat alone in his small living room, eyes fixed on the blinking light of his smart doorbell. For weeks, he had budgeted every spare credit just to afford the most advanced domestic helper on the market a sleek Silver robot made that promise to clean, cook, and even keep him company. He tapped his foot, excitement and nervousness thrumming in his chest. He imagined the smooth hum of polished metal, the quiet efficiency of robotic servos tidying his cluttered home. He pictured waking each morning to a steaming cup of coffee, prepared precisely the way he liked it. This purchase felt like the first step toward a brighter life. A soft chime sounded. Jonathan rose, heart pounding. He flipped open the front door to find not a box-stamped domestic android unit, but a tall figure draped in flowing robes that shimmered with an otherworldly light. The stranger's eyes were large and gentle, the pupils two vertical slits, like those of a cat. A delicate crown of glowing glass floated above her brow. For a moment, neither spoke. Jonathan's mouth hung open, his carefully rehearsed greeting lost on his tongue. I'm sorry, Jonathan stammered at last. I was expecting a robot. The figure tilted her head, a melody-like tone rising in her voice. I am Princess Ilara of the Ilari Empire. My ship's AI misread your request for a domestic aid as an invitation to send a diplomatic envoy. She stepped forward, head bowed with a poise that made Jonathan's breath catch. Her robes whispered over his floor as if the fabric moved of its own will. Please forgive this mistake. Jonathan closed the door behind her and gestured toward his cramped apartment. He tried to steady his voice. Of course, please come in. Inside, dust motes danced in the weak afternoon light. A tangled stack of unopened mail lay on the coffee table. Half-empty snack wrappers littered the couch. He cleared his throat. I can offer you water. Ilara nodded and followed him, her slender fingers brushing the air as if reading invisible lines of text. Jonathan fetched 2 glasses from the kitchen. As he poured water, her eyes studied him with genuine curiosity. He whispered, I thought I'd be talking to a machine. I didn't know how to act. Ilara smiled, a simple bend of her lips that lit up her entire face. Machines can follow instructions, she said softly. But people must learn from one another. She reached out and touched his hand. The contact was warm, like sunlight, through a window pane, and Jonathan felt a sudden surge of calm wash over him. In that moment, he understood that this encounter was changing something inside him. He led her to the couch, and they sat facing each other. Ilara examined his modest bookshelves, where well-thumbed sci-fi novels leaned against spaced-out figurines. She pointed at a tiny model spaceship perched atop a stack of old magazines. Jonathan flushed with pride. My dream is to explore the stars one day, he said. But for now, I fix computers to pay the bills. He shrugged. It's not glamorous. Ilara's eyes softened. Your passion matters more than your pay. She tilted her head, studying his face as if memorizing its every line. Tell me of your home, Jonathan. Her voice carried no judgment, only earnest interest. He found himself telling her about his childhood bedroom plastered with posters of distant worlds, about the nights he spent gazing at the sky through his telescope. He confessed how lonely he felt since his parents died, and how he longed for someone who understood his dreams. As he spoke, Ilara listened without interruption. She asked gentle questions, each one cutting through his reserve like a soft knife. Her attention made him feel seen in a way he hadn't in years. By the time he finished, his throat felt tight with emotion. Ilara reached into her robes and produced a small, glowing sphere. A gift for you, she said, placing it in his palm. The sphere pulsed like a heartbeat. This will help you find light when you feel alone. Jonathan stared at the gift, tears pricking his eyes. He wanted to thank her properly, but found only a choked whisper. Ilara smiled and placed her hand over his. Tomorrow, she promised, we will begin learning from each other. Do. The window, evening shadows stretched across the room. For the first time in a long time, Jonathan felt hope kindle in his heart. Hope that life could be more than bills and loneliness. Hope that even the most unexpected delivery could bring wonder into his world. Jonathan woke early the next morning, nerves and excitement swirling in his chest. He found Ilara standing by the window, her slender silhouette framed by pale sunlight. She gently touched the glass, watching the city's streets below, as if studying a living painting. Her robes, soft and flowing, caught the light in rippling patterns. Jonathan offered her a warm smile. "Good morning, Princess Alara," he said softly. "Would you like breakfast?" Alara turned to him, her cat-like eyes wide with curiosity. "Yes," she replied, her voice a melody. She tilted her head. "What is this substance you call coffee?" Jonathan led her to the kitchen, where an array of ordinary appliances sat. He pointed to the coffee maker. Its machine grinds beans, mixes them with hot water, and gives you energy for the day. Ilara reached out, her fingertips hovering over the machine's buttons as though reading its secret code. Jonathan filled the hopper with beans and pressed a button. The machine hissed and whirred. A rich aroma filled the air. Lara leaned forward, inhaling deeply. "It smells like life itself," she whispered. Jonathan laughed. "Here, taste it." He handed her a small cup. Ilara lifted it carefully and sipped, her eyes closed. "It is warm and bitter and soothing all at once," she said. He nodded, satisfied. "It's perfect for waking up." After breakfast, Jonathan decided to show Alara around his apartment. He pointed at his toaster. "This makes bread warm and crispy." Alara placed a slice of bread inside, pressing the lever with delicate precision. When the toast popped up, golden and steaming, she clapped her hands in delight. "Such a simple wonder," she said. "On my planet, food grows in pods. We never experienced this transformation." Jonathan smiled proudly. Earth has small miracles everywhere. Next, he handed her the TV remote. "This controls the images on the screen." Ilara pressed a button, and a cooking show flickered into view. She watched the host slice vegetables with ease. She pressed another button, and a nature documentary appeared, showing whales breaching the ocean's surface. Ilara's breath caught. "These creatures are magnificent," she said softly. Jonathan sat beside her. "They remind us that life on Earth is full of beauty too." Ilara nodded, her gaze distant as she imagined the vast oceans beyond Earth. Jonathan then pulled out an old video game console. "This is how I relax," he explained. He placed a controller in Ilara's hand. She examined the buttons, hesitated, then pressed one. A character on the screen sprang to life, running and jumping across obstacles. Ilara laughed, a sound like chimes in the wind, when her character slipped and tumbled. Jonathan coached her gently, showing which buttons to press. Soon, she was navigating the game with increasing skill. Jonathan's heart warmed as he watched her playful side emerge. By midday, Ilara was curious about everything. She asked about the stack of novels on his shelf. Jonathan pulled out his favorite, a worn copy of a space adventure. Ilara ran her fingers over the cover, tracing the title. "Your stories are echoes of our own legends," she said. "They speak of courage, friendship, and the unknown." Jonathan felt tears sting his eyes. "I wrote some of these ideas down when I was a child," he admitted. "I dreamed of exploring the stars." Ilara's hand hovered over his. "Your dreams matter." As afternoon light softened into evening glow, they sat side by side on the couch. Jonathan realized that in showing Ilara his world, he had rediscovered his own wonder. Ilara, in turn, seemed to drink in every detail, her expression one of pure fascination. Their laughter and conversation filled the room, weaving a new connection between two distant lives. Wherever she came from, Ilara had found warmth and companionship. Here in Jonathan had found a friend who saw him. Not as a customer, but as a fellow explorer of life's simple wonders. When Ilara finally stood to rest, she offered Jonathan a gentle bow. "Thank you for teaching me," she said. "You have given me a glimpse of humanity's heart." Jonathan placed his hand on his chest. "And you've reminded me why I love this place." Outside, stars began to wink into existence. Inside, two travelers from different worlds sat together, each changed by the day's discoveries, each eager for what tomorrow might bring. Jonathan returned home late that evening, his mind still buzzing with memories of the day's lessons. He opened the door to find Ilara standing by the bookshelf, her fingers brushing the spines as if reading secrets etched in the titles. She turned when she heard him, her eyes glowing softly. "Jonathan," she said, her voice a gentle melody, "I would like to help you in return." He smiled and set down his bag. "You already have," he said. "Your friendship means more than any machine could offer." Elada dipped her head in thanks, then straightened. She closed her eyes, her breathing steady. Jonathan watched in quiet wonder as a faint shimmer formed around her hands. Suddenly, a swirling cloud of tiny light swirled out from Elara's palms. Dust motes danced in the glow, lifting from the floor and drifting in gentle spirals. Jonathan's eyes widened, stumbled backward, unsure if he should be amazed or alarmed. Elara opened her eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I did not mean to startle you." The light settled around a stack of books, lifting each one carefully before arranging them neatly by size and color. Pages fluttered, as if turned by an invisible breeze. Jonathan stepped forward, awe replacing his fear. "Your power. It's incredible," he said.
Oh.
"Did you do that?"
Oh.
Elara looked down at her hands, as if seeing them for the first time. "On my world, technology and life are woven together," she explained. "My people can shape nanobots with our thoughts. They obey our will and bring our hands to where we cannot reach." She paused, measuring Jonathan's reaction. He knelt beside the hovering books, running a finger through the floating pages. "It's beautiful," he said softly, "but you must be tired." Elara shook her head. The lights dimmed, and the books drifted gently back to their shelves. "I feel no fatigue," she said, her tone calm. "But I want to learn more about your world's simple tools and routines." Jonathan helped her sit on the couch. He felt a surge of protectiveness toward this graceful alien who had shared her power so freely. He reached for his tablet and pulled up a video tutorial on nanotechnology. "This is the closest Earth has come to blending mind and machine," he said. Elara leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. She asked questions. Jonathan struggled to answer. Each question pushed him to think harder, to explain clearly and simply. She nodded at his words, absorbing them like sunlight. As Jonathan spoke, he realized how much he admired her curiosity. Lara's questions were kind, never critical. She listened to his explanations with genuine respect. In return, Jonathan felt bold enough to share more than just facts. He talked about his regrets, his loneliness, and the nights he wished for someone to understand his dreams. Elara reached across the couch and took his hand. "You are not alone," she said. Her touch was warm and steady. "Your heart is open, and that openness is a gift." Jonathan swallowed, his voice catching. "Thank you, Elara," he whispered. "You have given me more than I can say." Outside, distant city lights twinkled through the window. Inside, two beings from different stars had forged a bond that no power could break. When Jonathan finally stood and stretched, Elara mirrored his movement with a graceful fluidity. He pointed to the neat bookshelf. "You used your power to help me," he said. Elara smiled. "And you have shared your home with me. We help each other." Jonathan nodded, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. He knew in his bones that their journey had only just begun. Jonathan woke before dawn, unrest stirring in his chest. Through the thin curtain, he saw small drones hovering near the window, their red sensors scanning the street. He felt panic rise. He had not invited watchers into his home. Lara stirred. Behind him, rising with silent grace, her eyes widened when she saw the drones. "Danger approaches," she said softly, as if naming a silent storm. Jonathan hurried to her side. "They're from Horizon Security," he whispered. "They track anything unusual." He pointed at the devices. Each drone was sleek and metal, with bright lenses that reflected the streetlights. Jonathan's pulse pounded. He worried they would barge in, force Elara out, or worse. He wanted to protect her, this friend who had become his beacon of hope. Elara placed her hand on his arm, her touch steady in him. "Show me their intent," she said, concentrating. She closed her eyes. Jonathan watched as faint ripples shimmered around her. The air warped like heat haze. The drones flickered, their lights dimming. Each machine hovered, confused, its sensors. Unable to focus, Jonathan exhaled in relief. Elara had kept them at bay. Still more drones began to appear, buzzing through the street. Their lights cut through the pre-dawn gloom in narrow beams. Elara opened her eyes. We must take care, she said. She bowed her head, murmured words Jonathan could not translate. Tiny lights flickered at her fingertips. He felt warmth wash over him, as if the air itself trusted her. He followed her lead, stepping into the center of the room. As he watched, Ilara lifted her hands. A gentle glow spread outward, cloaking them both in a halo of soft light. The droning stopped. One by one, the drones descended, confused and then ingloriously spinning away. He realized that Ilara's power was a gift, not a threat. She protected them not with force, but with calm intention. When the last drone drifted away into the night, Jonathan exhaled, relief and admiration mingling. "Thank you," he whispered. Ilara's smile was tender. "Fear can teach us much," she said, "but it cannot break us when we stand together." She reached for his hand. Her fingers were cool yet alive, like a gentle breeze. Jonathan squeezed her hand, feeling renewed courage. He led Ilara to the window. "This neighborhood is safe now," he said quietly. Outside, streetlights flickered, and the sky lightened toward morning. The threat had passed, but Jonathan's heart still pounded with adrenaline. He glanced at Ilara. "Why did they come?" he asked. "Rumors of an alien presence spread like wildfire," she explained. "People fear what they do not understand." Jonathan nodded. "I understand," he said. "I was afraid too." He held her gaze. "But I know who you are now." Ilara's expression glowed with gratitude. "You see beyond fear," she said. "You see my heart." She took a step closer. Jonathan felt warmth fill the room. He realized that their bond had grown stronger in the face of danger. As daylight touched the horizon, Jonathan prepared a simple breakfast. He placed 2 cups of tea on the table. Ilara watched him move through the kitchen with calm curiosity, as if learning another ancient ritual. Jonathan felt a wave of peace. He knew they had faced shadows together and emerged unbroken. In that quiet morning light, he understood that the true power of HFY was not triumph in battle, but the courage to face fear with compassion and understanding. Jonathan woke before sunrise, his heart heavy with worry and hope in equal measure. He led Ilara to the small rooftop of his apartment building, where a worn metal ladder gave them a view of the broad city skyline. The air was cool, and the first pale light of morning painted the clouds in soft gold. Ilara's eyes widened as she looked upward. "The sky is different here," she whispered. Jonathan nodded and set up his old telescope, its paint chipped and its lens smudged with fingerprints. He wiped the glass carefully, remembering how his father taught him to care for every part. As he peered into the viewfinder, he guided Ilara's gaze toward a bright cluster of stars. "That is the Pleiades," he said. "On Earth, people have watched those stars for thousands of years and told stories about them." Ilara leaned close, her breath warm against his shoulder. "Tell me," she said softly. Jonathan took a deep breath and began to speak of his childhood, when he and his parents would sit in the backyard and watch the night sky. He remembered how his mother's laughter felt like music, how his father's strong hand felt steady on his shoulder. He spoke of feeling lost after they were gone, of long nights filled with empty rooms and aching silence. Ilara listened without interruption, the faint glow of her crown lighting her face like a gentle halo. When he paused, tears in his eyes, she reached out and touched his hand. "Your memory keeps them alive," she said. "They live in you, and in your love for the stars." He blinked back tears and pointed the telescope to another spot. "Here is Mars," he said. "Some say life once bloomed there. Keep searching because hope drives us forward." Ilara's gaze stayed on the red dot glowing softly through the lens. "Hope is our greatest gift," she agreed. She closed her eyes, and a ripple of light pulsed from her chest. Tiny luminescent orbs floated upward from her robes, each like a captured star. They drifted into the air and then returned to Ilara's open palm. "On my world," she said, "we share our light with one another to show care and connection. Each orb carries a thought of kindness." Jonathan watched, amazed, as she placed one orb into his hand. It felt warm, almost alive, and he felt his chest lift with a sudden surge of peace. "Thank you," he breathed. Ilara smiled, and then looked around at the distant city lights. "Your home is full of life," she said. "Even in the darkness, people find ways to connect, to care, to dream." Jonathan nodded. "We do," he agreed. "Sometimes we forget how strong we can be when we work together." Ilara's eyes shone. "That is why I came here," she said. "To learn of your heart and to share our hope with your people." Jonathan realized then that their friendship was a bridge between worlds. He lifted the telescope to Ilara again. "Look over!" "Here," he whispered. This time he guided her toward the glow of a distant galaxy, faint but endless. That light traveled for millions of years to reach us. Ilara gazed and softly touched Jonathan's arm. "Your wonder brings our worlds closer," she said. In that moment, the city around them vanished. There was only the two of them, two souls sharing stories under the stars, bound by empathy, curiosity, and the simple courage to reach out. Jonathan pressed his forehead against Ilara's shoulder. "You have shown me a new kind of strength," he said. Ilara rested her cheek against his head. "And you have shown me the heart of humanity." The morning sun rose higher, bathing them in golden light. Together they watched the sky, their hearts full of hope, knowing that even the smallest act of kindness could shine across the cosmos. Jonathan checked the time and felt his pulse quicken. It was midday, and he knew the security drones would return. He found Ilara in his living room, tracing patterns on the window pane with gentle finger movements. Her robes glowed softly, matching his own nervous energy. "They come again," he said quietly. Ilara nodded, her face calm. "Then we will show them our way," she replied. They left the apartment together, weaving through crowded sidewalks toward the city plaza. Jonathan carried his compact recorder, hoping to capture what would happen. Ilara walked beside him, her head held high like a princess among common folk. Well, as they reached the open square, a hush fell over the crowd. Word had spread of the strange woman with glowing robes who lived with a man in a small apartment. Now people watched, curious and cautious. High above, 5 drones hovered in tight formation. Their lenses glowed red, searching for signs of threat. Jonathan gripped Ilara's hand. "They will try to scare people away," he warned. Ilara smiled and squeezed his hand back. "Then we will give them a different view of the sky," she said. Jonathan stepped back and gave Ilara room. She closed her eyes and lifted her arms. Soft hum rose from the plaza as nanobot swarms poured from her sleeves like silver dust. The crowd leaned forward, murmuring. The nanobots gathered above them and then burst into thousands of tiny lights. In an instant, the entire sky above the plaza filled with stars, too bright, too vivid to be real. A gasp rose from the crowd. Children pointed. Adults whispered in wonder. The drones wobbled as their sensors tried to interpret the sudden starfield. Instead of code or danger, their scanners saw beauty. One by one, the drones lowered until they floated just above the crowd, motionless and silent. People dared to look up, their faces lit by the glowing dots. Ilara spoke in a clear, warm tone that carried to every corner of the plaza. "This is our gift to you," she said, "a reminder that beauty connects us all. Fear divides, but wonder unites." She opened her arms, and the stars shifted shape, forming a great ring overhead. Inside the ring, human faces appeared images of friends, families, workers, and children. Then alien figures joined them, proud Alari nobles, smiling wide-eyed scouts, and curious scholars. The images merged, showing that both worlds could stand together. Jonathan raised his recorder and captured every moment. He saw people wiping tears from their eyes. He heard soft sobs of joy. A woman next to him turned to her companion and whispered, "I never knew I needed this." Ilara's eyes shone with tears too. Jonathan felt his own tears burn at the back of his throat. He realized he had never felt more alive, more part of something greater than himself. Above them, the drone's red lights dimmed and then went dark. They rotated slowly and flew away. Their mission changed. They no longer saw an alien threat, but a patient teacher. As the starfield slowly faded, the crowd erupted into applause. Jonathan raised his voice to speak into the recorder. "Today we learned that first contact need not be conflict," he said. "It can be a lesson in kindness." People in the plaza began to chant Ilara's name. She bowed, covering her mouth in surprise. Jonathan slipped his arm around her waist and pulled her close. "You did it," he whispered. "You changed everything." Ilara looked at him, her eyes bright. "We did it together," she said softly. By the time they walked home, the sun was low in the sky. Jonathan carried the recorder, humming a tune of hope. Ilara leaned on his shoulder, her glow now gentle like a candle. They passed neighbors who waved and smiled, no longer afraid. Jonathan felt tears prick his eyes again. These were tears of relief and pride. That night, as Ilara slept peacefully, Jonathan replayed the recording. He listened to the crowd's gasps, the soft crackle of the nanobots, the final roar of applause. He knew this moment would live forever. In the stillness of his apartment, he whispered a promise. "Tomorrow, we share this with the world." Ilara stirred and opened her eyes. She smiled at him, full of trust. Jonathan held her hand and felt wonder rise anew. They had faced fear and transformed it. They had shown humanity's heart. And together, they had made the stars their bridge. Jonathan stood on his balcony as the last light of dusk faded into night. Below him, the city buzzed softly with life, its lights sparkling like scattered stars. Ilara appeared beside him, her robes now quiet and dark, the glow of her power resting deep inside her. Jonathan offered her a small box wrapped in simple brown paper. Inside was the tiny glowing orb she had given him on their first night together. She unwrapped the gift with gentle fingers, her eyes reflecting its soft pulse. "This has helped me find light in loneliness," Jonathan said, his voice thick. With gratitude, Ilara held the orb against her chest. "And you have given me connection," she replied, her smile warm. The world felt still around them as two friends shared a moment that bridged galaxies. "I must return home soon," Ilara said after a pause. Jonathan's heart clenched at the thought. He nodded, fighting back tears. "I know," he whispered. "But before you go, I want the world to know you." He gestured toward the streets below. "Sure. Tomorrow, I will share our story with everyone." Lara looked out at the city and breathed deeply, as if memorizing each building and light. Night, they spent hours talking about the future. Jonathan showed Ilara how to draft a message on his tablet. Together, they wrote of their friendship, of humanity's curiosity and compassion, and of the beauty that arises when two worlds meet without fear. Ilara added her own words about hope, unity, and the promise of shared knowledge. When they were done, Jonathan sent the message to every news outlet he could reach. In the early morning, Ilara's ship hummed quietly on the rooftop. Its metal hull reflected the sunrise, and Jonathan watched it with a mix of pride and sorrow. Crowds had gathered below, drawn by word of her final demonstration. People stood hand in hand, waiting in respectful silence for farewell. Ilara stepped forward and raised her hands, calling her nanobots to form a grand arch of light above the rooftop edge. Under that arch, she and Jonathan stood together. She spoke in a clear voice that carried beyond the rooftop. "People of Earth," she said, "thank you for opening your hearts. I came expecting a machine, yet I found friendship and wonder. I learned the kindness in your simple routines, the strength in your shared hopes." Tears glistened in many eyes below. "Now I return to my world," she continued, "but our bond will guide us forward. May we inspire each other to reach for the stars with courage and compassion." A soft cheer rose from the crowds as Ilara lowered her hands and the arch of light faded into sparkling motes. Jonathan felt tears slip down his cheeks. He bowed to her, his chest tight with emotion. Ilara knelt and placed a delicate kiss on his forehead. "Remember me," she whispered. He placed his palm over hers. "Always," he answered. With a gentle hum, Ilara stepped onto her ship's ramp. She turned once more, her eyes meeting Jonathan's, and then she was gone in a cascade of starlight. The ship lifted silently into the sky and disappeared beyond the clouds. Jonathan stood alone on the rooftop, his heart full and aching. Closed his eyes and held the glowing orb. Tight, its warmth pulsing through his palm in the days that followed. Jonathan's recording of Alara's farewell went viral across the world. People everywhere watched the story of a human and an alien princess who chose friendship over fear. Letters poured in, sharing ideas for peace, unity, and new ways to learn from one another. Jonathan read them all, amazed by the change he had helped spark. Late at night, Jonathan placed the glowing orb on his bedside table and whispered into the darkness, "Thank you, Alara." He fell asleep with a calm heart, certain that their encounter would echo in the hearts of billions. Across the galaxy, an alien princess carried stories of Earth's kindness back to her people. And on Earth, humanity carried forward the lesson that true strength shines brightest when it is shared.